Today, I'll be interviewing Xanthe Huynh, a popular voice actress who is well known for voicing Marianne in Fire Emblem, Haru in Persona 5, and many more. Let's dive right into it. Hello.
There we go. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Good, 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 good. It's not morning. How's the, not evening. How's the afternoon?
It's still morning, I think.
So, I don't know. I feel like I've been awake for so long that I'm like, I don't know what time it is anymore. So that's cool.
That's
That's cool.
reasonable.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in for today's interview with Geek Media.
Yeah.
It really means a lot. This is my first interview with interviewing someone. So if I'm like
Okay, cool.
stuttering or whatever, you know why.
Oh, no worries. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm usually really awkward in interviews too, so it's all
Yeah.
good.
I think at the end of the day, everyone's just kind of like, we're all kind of awkward, right? So yeah. So first things first, could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Xanthe Huynh. I am a voice actor here in Los Angeles. Uh, you may know me from anime such as um, oh my gosh, I should have like made a
You're
list.
like, ah.
I guess I'm more known for Love Live, School Idol Project, Madoka Magica, the Rebellion movie, Yuki Yuna as a Hero, Cells at Work, and some video games such
Yeah.
as Fire Emblem Three Houses and Persona 5. And
Cool,
so
cool.
if you want a full list of credits, just go to my website.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, actually, I was watching something and I think you're gonna be are you voicing someone in Cells at Work season two?
Oh yeah. So I've in season 1 and season 2, I voiced the platelets. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. My boyfriend and I actually got we watched Cells at Work like a couple months ago, and then I
Mhm.
was like, man, this paint like her voice is cute. And then like Chris was like, my boyfriend Chris was like thinking for a while, and he's like, is that Xanthe? And then like he looked it up and he's like, it is her. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like I started
Ah,
to recognize your voice in a lot of things. So that's really nice.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that. I feel like Cells at Work is one of those anime where I think watching it in the dub is really helpful because there's so much information. It's got
Yeah.
information overload. So if you're reading all that text on the screen, it kind of takes you out of what's happening.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know how or why we started watching it in dub. I think there was a reason, but then like we just started watching and I was like, oh, it's pretty good. Yeah, I like it. I like it. So we just kept watching
I
it.
love that show. It was so much fun working on it just because like it's kind of larger than life and like the villains are like so like yeah we're gonna get this body
Yeah.
and so yeah, I love
Yeah, it's
that show.
crazy. That anime was really trippy, especially in that one episode where it's the cancer cell. I was like, I
Oh yeah.
like, am I supposed to feel bad? Because like I don't know, because it's kind of weird because the cancer is kind of like it's bad, but it's like they took it top notch, and I think it was really funny because
Yeah.
like Chris and I were like talking, we're like, what do we do? Like, what is this episode? But it's fun. It's fun. That's so cool. That's awesome. So actually, that leads to my next question. How did you get into voice acting? I asked a couple of friends because I was curious, and they were like, yeah, I think she won like an anime competition or a voice acting competition at like Anime
Well, I
Expo.
competed in one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and the way that I got in is like like not the typical way and it's very different from like person to person. Everybody has a different journey, but for me, I already had kind of a background in theater and I took classes in school. And at the time, I was at UCI pursuing my theater degree.
Awesome.
And I was a friend of mine had suggested because I was like, oh, I'd really like to get into voiceover, but I have no idea how to get into it. And a friend of mine had suggested that I compete at Anime Expo. It's called AX Idol at the time, and you had to memorize a monologue and then go and then perform it. It's really different. I think they structure it differently now. It's more like a typical voiceover session where you have just like the script and then you try to do it to timing. But for me, it was just find your own monologue, go and then perform it. I made it as a finalist, and and they liked me enough that they brought me in to audition and, then get my start from there actually. So
Yeah, that's so cool. Wow. Were you like really nervous
oh
going
yeah, I
in?
was super nervous. I was so nervous that when I got up to recite my monologue, I said about like 3 words, and then I went completely blank and I was like freaking out because I was like, oh no, I'm about to run off this stage
Oh,
crying. So I was just like mumbling, and then the words came back, and so I was able to jump back into it and perform the rest of it. I was so lucky.
that's lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. Like one of the judges was like, "Oh, it was kind of hard to understand you in the beginning, but you really did well," and so blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, "Okay."
Okay.
They didn't know that I was messing up.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, especially like if they catch on to that, they were like, "Oh, you messed up," but then they didn't know. So that's like always the best
Yeah,
thing.
I think
That's cool.
they have understand that it's very high pressure and very difficult to get up in front of people and perform.
Yeah. Was it just a bunch of people that never voice act that participated in the competition, or was it like
It's hard to tell, but I mean, it is open to like amateurs.
okay.
So it's open to anybody that is interested, no matter what your experience level is. They usually ask that you don't compete if you're already a working professional,
Oh,
just so that because they want to open up the opportunities for newcomers.
yeah.
And so at the time, I had no idea how to approach voice acting at all.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what I was doing at all, but I think my background in acting for theater, my training there really helped me to transition over to voiceover.
That's cool. That's cool. I actually didn't know you went to college for theater. I was like, what? That's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. I have like so many friends that are like wanting to get into it, and they didn't go to college for theater. Like they just want to start getting into it.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. I mean, I'm always like, I feel like some people feel like nervous about it because they're like, oh, should I go to school? Should I go to school? And like all that
I
stuff.
mean, it's expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
there's like so many ways that you can get into it. And so many of my friends, like, they've all started in different places, and not everybody has like the theater training, although I think it's beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like some people just like are just massively talented, and they practice at home, or they take there's lots of like voiceover classes too that can help
Yeah.
you train up to it and how to approach copy and things like that.
Hmm.
And so there's no right or wrong way, but
Yeah.
it's the way that I know
Okay.
and
Well,
that
that's
I
really cool.
experienced.
Yeah, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. Awesome. Actually, speaking of all the whole acting thing, so I'm assuming you did a lot of projects, from video games and animes and a bunch of other things. I'm just wondering, what are some of your favorite ones?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's always a hard question to answer. I feel like I say different things
Every
every
time, yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Um, I guess one among my favorites, I really liked working on Makia, the flower we saw that day. It's a
Hmm.
very beautiful movie. My character goes through a lot. Like she goes through, I guess, how do I not spoil this? Basically, stuff happens to her.
Right.
She finds a young baby that is all alone. And so she decides to adopt this baby. And
Yeah.
then she doesn't know how to take care of a baby, but
Yeah.
she she befriends another mother who teaches her how to take care of the baby. And it's just really beautiful trying to see how she balances like trying to basically survive and take care of the child, even though the child is kind of like rambunctious and kind of a
Yeah.
troublemaker at times. It's full of heart, and it's really beautiful, and I had a big cry in
Oh,
it.
oh no. Were you like
um
crying when you were like reading the lines or?
Yeah, it's kind of hard when you're dubbing something like really emotional. I had a similar experience when in Anohana, the flower we saw that day,
Hmm.
because it has a really big emotional crying moment. And because we go line by line, you we'll do a line, and then we'll stop, and then the engineer will like kind of shift things in place to make sure that it's matching the little mouth flaps. So
Yeah.
the timing is matching up.
Okay.
And then maybe the director will be like, okay, I want to tweak this or that about what you did. So
Yeah.
then we'll do it again.
Yeah.
But then it gets hard when it's like a big crying scene, because it's like, I just cried, and then hold, and then I'm like having this like feeling just like kind of stirring and staying with me in case we need to do it a second or third or fourth time.
Oh my gosh.
And so
Yeah.
like, you know, what might be like 5 seconds of crying might be like 10 minutes of me like crying over and over again.
Yeah. No, wow, it's hard. That's hard. Actually, like, um, it sounds actually pretty exhausting too. Because like, if they have
It
to do it
can
over and over, you're
be.
like, okay, I gotta say it like this for a long time. I'm like,
Yeah, and
wow,
you got to be
I would
kind
just
of
break down.
consistent.
Wow.
Or if you're like building a scene where it's like leading up to like something emotional like that, it can be kind of hard because you have to make sure that, oh, this is where you ended with your last line. So
Yeah.
now how do you build on that and then build on that so that it doesn't sound like you're going from here to here
Yeah.
suddenly?
Yeah. It doesn't sound
So,
like awkward. Like it's a
yeah.
smooth transition, like it's all natural. It's happening in one take. That's crazy.
I wish it
Wow,
was
that's
all in one take.
yeah, no, that's crazy. Oh my gosh. I have friends who try to voice act and they just I don't think they've done something like that. Like they just kind of do like voice impressions for funsies. And I'm always like, okay, yeah, that's the thing. But then if you're doing like a big project and you have to do it over and over and over, that's
That's
oh
the
my
thing.
god.
Like,
Yeah.
I think it's a slight misconception is that voiceover is just like doing like a bunch of different voices and doing all these impressions and being able to be versatile in that way. And there's plenty of people that are amazing at that. I feel like my repertoire, like a lot of the characters I tend to play, are around where my natural voice is, or maybe a little bit higher, or a little lower. But it's it's one thing to be able to do a couple lines as
Yeah.
like a voice,
Mhm.
but to be able to sustain it for a whole project, like if it's, you know, several episodes long, you got to be able to like keep that up, and that can be challenging depending on the character type. If you know they're very high energy, if you're going for like hours, like 2 to 4 hours, like staying high
Yeah.
energy, it gets exhausting.
Oh, I bet. Is that like, oh, actually, it's perfect because this leads to like the next question. But like, would you say that is like one of the tougher things about voice acting, or if that's like an obstacle with voice acting?
It can. I think like over time when you know you get to really know your voice and your limits, then you can kind of tell like, oh, okay, can I sustain this voice for 2 hours or not?
Yeah, yeah.
If it starts to hurt with me just doing it within 10 minutes, I should probably not audition with this voice, because when I get into the booth,
Oh
I'm
no.
just going to like, you know, cap out at 10 minutes and then they're going to fire me. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
so
Unless it's
yeah,
like a small role, then you're like, okay, I can do this for like 10 minutes. That's perfect.
yeah, that
Yeah.
can always be fun. Like I always like projects where I get brought in just to do like background voices.
Yeah.
So like, you know, then they'll just be like, oh, okay, you're like that thing in the background. What kind of voice do you think they have? And then you can come up with like, if you have like an impression or like cool voice that you want to try out, that would be the place to do it, because you only have like one or two lines
Yeah.
versus like, all right, now you know, you have to do this for a very long time, then that could be really difficult, which is why I really admire people that do like creature voices, like
Oh my
monsters and
gosh.
stuff. I don't
Oh
know
man.
how they sustain that
Yeah.
and still be able to work the next day. You know?
That's crazy. Wow. I I don't know. Like it's like they either have like a really good voice that fits for it, like especially for like male voices, like they have a low voice and it's easier for them to do like creature voices. And I'm just like, or like
Yeah. So
if you have
that
like
comes
a
down to like good casting then, because they can always tell like what your strengths are just
that's
based on
cool.
your
Yeah.
reads, and like know where to place you so that, you know, overall everybody sounds good together, and like you're not pushing to like play something that's really difficult for you.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, do you did you ever have to work with someone that helped you find like what's the best vocal range for you? Because like, you know, people want to get into
Hmm.
voice acting, but you know, everyone has different voices. So how did you figure it out on your own or did someone help you with that?
I really struggled with that for a long time because I always thought like, oh, my voice is naturally very high, so I guess I can only play young types. And for a long time, like, and still I get cast for a lot of those types.
Mhm.
Um, but lately, like, I did have a friend that I was practicing with, and he would push me to try different characters outside my type or outside what I thought was my type.
Yeah.
And through reading different types of copy and such like that, then we kind of discovered like, oh, okay, this could be a really good type. Maybe you should like read more and more like scripts and things like with
Okay.
this voice so you can practice and feel more comfortable there so that you can go there for reads. So yeah,
Okay.
practicing and experimenting is the best way to find where you are comfortably in the types that you play.
Okay.
A note that I took a class with Crispin Freeman. He has this like character archetype class,
Okay.
and just to help you try different voices and see what you could potentially play. And I kind of brought this concern up to him, like, oh, I feel like my voice is naturally high, so I feel like I can only play children. And he was like, well, that shouldn't hold you back. You should be try to be like the
Yeah.
best little girl that you can be, and like, or maybe you're also like you can play little boys as well.
Yeah.
And like what different types of little girls are there? There's like the princessy types, there's like the sweet gentle types, there's so many different types you can play within that range.
Yeah.
So, and I thought that was really amazing advice.
Wow, that is really good advice. I wish I heard
Mhm.
that. It's really funny because it reminds me back when I was in middle school, I was really interested into voice or not voice acting, just acting in general,
Mhm.
because like I was a big fan of like Harry Potter. So then when I watched the
Yeah.
movies, I memorized the lines, and then I was like, yeah, like I want to act. And then my parents are like, no, it's a horrible route. And I was like depressed. But regardless, in middle school, I did take a drama class, and we experimented like doing different types of like skits and monologues and stuff. And one project was a puppet show, but we have to do different voices. And
Mhm.
this is like the hardest thing in my life. So I created my character, cool, whatever. I go up to my teacher, and he's like, okay, talk to me in your character voice. And I'm like, what? And then he's like, yeah, talk to me in your character voice. And I'm like, I was so embarrassed. I couldn't do it. And he's like,
Oh
I'm not, he's
no.
like, you're not leaving until like you have to do it. I need
Oh,
to
being
know.
put on the spot is the worst though. It's
Yeah.
one thing if you're like prepared and like you're ready to do it versus someone like tell you to do a voice, which happens to a lot of voice actors. And it's
Oh,
just like,
really?
well, what kind of voice? I
Well,
don't.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, well, he looked at my like character that I made. He's like, oh, this is okay. Like, it's like a girl, like what kind of
Mhm.
personality? And I was like, I'm like, I can't use my own voice. And then he's like, no. So, and luckily, like, it wasn't like super on the spot. Like, it was like him, me, and then like there's a line of people that needs to get like approved
Mhm.
for, to move on. And then my rest of my classmates just in the back talking and practicing, whatever. And then I was like, I made a really high pitched voice, but I couldn't stop laughing. And then he's like, he's like, are you gonna use that voice? And I'm like, yeah, I'll use it. And then he's like, okay, cool, next. And then I was like, oh! And then like luckily the next day or the next week when we were practicing, and then we did the show, like I did use the voice, and I wasn't like laughing because like we all had to. So that embarrassment kind of went away, because like
Yeah,
we
with
all had to do it.
practice.
Yeah. So then it's fine. But I remember that's like, so I can relate to you with the whole, at least in that aspect. That was
Yeah.
one wild memory. I don't know.
And that's the thing like I find beneficial with like kind of training and like classes if not with classes like with other actors like
Yeah.
that you feel comfortable and you feel safe with honestly that you can like play around with voices and see what works and what doesn't.
Hmm.
Sometimes I've tried lots of like really horrible things and I'm like okay that did not sound good.
Yeah.
But it's better to find out in a safe setting where there's no pressure or like no judgments being
Hmm.
held
Yeah.
before you like try it in like a professional like work setting because then you
Yeah.
don't want everybody to be like oh okay that's weird. You
Oh
want
my
to always
gosh.
leave like put your best foot forward.
Yeah. And be just like confident with whatever you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I think everyone needs to have that feeling of confidence with whatever they're doing. I think voice acting
Yeah.
just is like, or at least I think acting and voice acting is like probably the hardest thing to do, to be confident in. but how do I know?
It's hard. Like my confidence wanes at times too,
Oh,
even
really?
now. Yeah, like I've been doing this for like almost like 15 years, but um, at times I'm like, okay, am I like, are people tired of hearing me? Am I like not
Yeah.
good anymore? Like, oh, did that last audition I sent in sound really bad? Now they never want to cast me because I haven't heard from them for months or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
So, like I feel like a lot of creatives, in general, but also like voice actors, go through cycles of that because the work is so inconsistent,
Yeah.
and it can feel like you're auditioning constantly, or maybe you're not getting auditions, and your self-confidence can really tank, even because you have periods of slow, like
Yeah.
no work. We all
Yeah.
have like
Moments
our
where it's not a steady workflow.
yeah.
Yeah,
So when
that's
the
tough.
work's great and going, it's great. But then
You're
when
like,
it starts to slow down, then you just kind of like question, like, oh no, is this the end? Like,
man, is this all what
it was a
I've
good
done?
run.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's scary, but I think like I think that's when we need to be the most like confident in ourselves and kind of be like, yeah, no, it's okay. It's ruts. And I think that's if any job, and especially
Yeah.
in a job like voice acting, if it's not steady, then that's hard because do you find auditions or gigs yourself, or do you have an agent that helped you with that?
So for a long time, like I just had connections with like a studio or so, and like I got my start with Bang Zoom. So then like that's where I was for the most part. And then through working with directors there, sometimes they would be working on projects at other studios, and then they would recommend me and bring me in, or they would recommend me to other directors. And like for me, it was a very slow, gradual growth because that's how I like went about it for the longest time.
Okay.
And then it wasn't until a few years ago. I've only been with my agency maybe about 2 years. So
Okay.
like most people would be like, all right, I've got a couple roles under my belt. I'm gonna go for an agent because that's where like big auditions go to. Um, and for me, I took like over 10 years to like really get demos made and then
Yeah.
get my agent. So nowadays I do get a lot of auditions through my agents,
Okay.
but then also I'm always kind of on the lookout for open castings. Sometimes if you follow casting directors like on like Twitter or something, they'll post stuff up there. Or if they open up their like lists, then I'll like jump on and put myself on there just like because I can't, you shouldn't always just rely on your agents
Agency.
to
Yeah.
like find you work.
Mhm.
I feel like you gotta put in the hustle yourself too.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, that's actually
Yeah.
really cool because then like I feel like if you just have everything handed to you on a silver platter or just waiting on things, like how are you gonna just find different opportunities? And I think that's cool. It's crazy because like I feel like most people find a lot of opportunities on Twitter. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
what? Like like you don't even like who cares about like doing it
Yeah,
formally
there's
when you
a
can
lot of
just,
smaller projects that you'll never see through an agency that's posted online. I mean, like, but because like these are like indie groups, like their budgets may vary,
yeah.
and I think in that sense, like some people find it hard to gauge, like, oh, what is a fair rate? What am I worth, and such like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So there's guidelines for that. My friend Kira Buckland, she created a guide for like beginners to kind of like work with, and then like the more experience you have, the more you understand like, okay, this is how much this time it'll take. I think I should be paid this much.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps you regulate in that sense. Although we would all like things to have some sort of standard
Hmm.
for stuff. But I was gonna say something about finding stuff online. Um, Forgot it. It's
It's
okay.
okay. Yeah, that's really cool. I feel like for me, for the same thing, like if I get hit with a campaign and stuff, and they ask like, oh, what's your rate? I'm like, and I Google it, and then I'm just like, okay, it says this, but I'm this. So how do I like figure it out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's
It's
tough.
like
And
either
I,
like,
yeah,
okay, what is your budget? Or like if you know anybody else that's already on the
similar.
project, then you can
Yeah.
kind of be like, hey, what do you think I should ask for this?
Yeah.
Just get an idea. It's always
Yeah.
kind of like good to
Yeah.
ask around
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah.
And like I wish that was more of a thing. I feel like it's only been in recent years where people are starting to be more open about talking about like pay rates,
Oh yeah.
because it's like, oh, so hush hush, but it's really important to have
Yeah.
these conversations so that we're not being you know being
Taken advantage
undercut.
of, or
Yeah, taken
yeah.
advantage of it,
Hmm.
especially. And like, also just not undercutting other people. You
Oh
want to make
yeah.
sure that everybody's kind of got a level playing field.
Yeah. That's really cool. I know, especially on TikTok and Twitter, a lot of artists like will ask like, hey, how much should I charge for a commission? Because like or even like video editors, because I used to work with a
Mm,
video editor, and they charge like a pretty expensive amount. That's because like they have a lot of prestige. They've worked on really big projects with like really famous streamers, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like I'll pay the amount. Awesome. And then I worked with another editor, also very great, but they charge very little. And I'm like,
mm,
are you aware that like you're kind of undercutting yourself? Because I'm like, this is like, I felt so bad. So
yeah.
I would tip a little bit more, but
Hmm.
I'm just like, why are you charging so low? Like, it's crazy. But I think people will understand and kind of figure it out as they go, you know.
Hmm.
But
I mean,
that's
that's
just
great
how it
that you
is.
you kind of like let them know, because otherwise most people be like, yeah, I mean, I'll definitely take that rate. But like it's like when I reach out to artists for like doing commissions for like prints. So I have like a general like, okay, this is how much I want to spend. And then like I have like an average, I mean, based on like different artists that I've commissioned. And then sometimes I'll reach out to like a newer artist that has amazing art,
Hmm.
and like they'll charge me something like ridiculously low. And I'm like, no, 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 no. This is not just a regular commission. This is for
This,
commercial purposes. I'm
yeah,
going to be using this for signings, and I'm going to be receiving pay.
yeah,
So I need to give like a rate, like you need to give me a better rate than this, or for
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
And
Did
so they were
they
like, okay, how about if I had like $20 more I'm like, no, no, no. This should be like
100 or
several
something?
hundreds more.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I want to offer you this much. This was like my what I wanted to like, I was thinking of
Originally
paying
offer,
anyway.
yeah.
And they were like, no, no, that's too much. I'm like, no, I'm gonna pay you this
Like
much.
I insist. Like take it,
Take
and
my money. You're
yeah, and
so good.
it's so cute, and it's so sad at the same time because they just don't know. But then once they
Yeah.
know, then they're like, oh, I know my value, I know my worth, and now I
Hmm.
have experience working. Like, oh, I'm gonna like do an art piece for like this person who's gonna advertise it. Now I know how to charge this price. If it's like more
Yeah.
like, oh, it's just a commission for their OC or the character, like that's different.
Hmm.
So that's cool. That's so cute. Oh yeah, now it actually makes sense because when I visited you at Anime Impulse, I saw a lot of
Hmm.
prints and I was like, how did you get these prints? Like now I know. It's really cool. Do you remember the moment that you realized that you made it as a voice actress? Like you're like, I did it. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, it does, but like it's weird because, and I've had this conversation with other actors too, but I I I still don't feel like I've made it. I'm still like hustling, trying to just get more work. I'm always like looking forward to the next thing,
Mhm. Yeah,
just to make sure that I have work lined up. And so I'm not even sure, at what point will I feel like, what, I really made it as an actor.
I did it. It's
Uh,
over. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I hope I don't feel that way. I mean,
yeah. Oh
like
my gosh.
if you ever get to the point where it's just like, oh, this is a grind, then why are you doing this?
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I feel like with anything, it should be like a grind, especially if like something creative. I don't think you never stop with grinding with anything creative. Like if you're doing something boring, like accounting, it's over. Like you made it, you got your job. Like what else is there to do? But
Yeah, you're making
yeah,
your money.
yeah,
I mean, depends on your goals, I guess. But then like I feel like there's always more to explore.
yeah.
And there's more to like, like I want to expand more in different other facets of voiceover. I mean, I love the anime and video games, and I would love to continue to do those, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind doing like commercial work or,
Yeah.
like Western animation. So,
Yeah.
there's always things to look forward to.
Is that like one of the bigger goals you have, like to be in a Western animation or a commercial?
Hmm. I've gotten to
Okay.
work on some, but then like I'd like to like try those facets more as well, just because like it's stylistically they're very different, and then like
Yeah.
you get so used to reading auditions in a certain way that when you jump into this other thing, it's like, oh, okay, well, how do I hit
Yeah.
the timing of the humor or like get these moments right so it makes
Sense.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. So like maybe in the next couple months or years, we'll see you in like a Pixar movie or Disney movie. That'd be cool.
That
That'd
would be
actually be really cool.
amazing.
Yeah, that would
Putting
be
it
really
out there,
cool.
universe.
Oh my, just throwing it out there, manifest it.
Yeah.
That's a trend, right? That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the bigger projects that I remember you in, like, I was like, whoa, like it was so cool was Fire Emblem Three House. So
Ah.
I was like, that's her. Wow, like that's awesome. Because I think the first time I think when Chris introduced me to you, and
Mhm.
I'm like, what roles? I think the first role was in Sword Art Online when you were, I
Ah,
forgot her name.
Saki.
Yeah. And I was like,
Yes.
who is this? And he's like, you just have to watch this one episode in English, though, and then we'll switch it to Japanese. And I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I'm like, yeah, that's Xanthe. And I was like, oh. And then there's this joke that like you always voice characters that die. And I'm always like, that's so
there's
sad.
a there's a lot of them.
Yeah. So it's a fun joke. So it's nice to see like you're doing different characters that don't die now. Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It's a
that's
good
cool.
balance. I'd like to stay on for more than
Yeah.
an episode or two.
Yeah, you're like, but yeah, going back to Fire Emblem Three Houses, what was your experience voicing Marianne? Because that was like must have been really fun.
Yeah, it was super fun. And it's funny at the time, like I didn't know it was Fire Emblem because they have like a code name. Like a lot of games that are they have like code names because like they're very super secret.
Oh,
Um
okay.
and so but I mean it doesn't hurt the like the way I or change the way I perform just because I don't know what the
The
project
character.
is.
Oh, okay.
I mean, because I rely so heavily on the director and like if there's the client there from production to kind of explain and help me like understand the world and like what's happening, then it's a lot easier to just kind of like jump in.
Okay.
Um, and I remember the client saying that he really while he was explaining Marianne's character,
Hmm.
saying that she feels like an outcast and how she is very doesn't feel very confident about herself because she has this sort of cursed and it's sort of a burden, and at the same time she feels like she has to put distance between herself and other people because she might be dangerous to them, and so it's caused her to become very withdrawn and like kind of fearful, and he felt like a lot of people would relate with her a lot
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like because she has so much anxiety,
Aw.
um,
Yeah.
and I think that really resonated with me. I was like, okay, like I feel like everybody's had a moment where they felt like maybe they didn't belong or such like that, but the recording process was really nice. Patrick Seitz is an incredible director. He really knows like when to how to like explain a moment so that you really get into the mindset of the character,
Oh
and
yeah.
also explaining character relationships.
Oh, okay.
um
Do you ever have like another voice actor that would be there in the booth with you to do interactions or
Very
no?
rarely.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes some studios like have a system where if like a character has already recorded, sometimes they'll play it for you so you can work
Oh,
like
okay.
respond to them more
Yeah.
organically, but a lot of times there's just no time to do that.
Okay.
But for this game I felt like they went at a pretty steady pace. Patrick would read the other characters' lines for me so that I
Okay.
could know what I was responding to. Some
Okay.
games, like there's no time, so you just kind of
Do
like
it.
read them, and hopefully like when it mixes together it sounds natural.
Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, but for in this case, I was working a reading responding to Patrick, and that really helped a lot because he really embodied all of the characters. There's so many characters, and there's
Yeah.
so many like scenes between different characters, and it really helped me to kind of keep them kind of categorized. Like,
Yeah.
oh, what's it like between like her and Hilda versus her
Okay.
and Ignatz, or her and Lawrence, like they're all
Yeah.
very different. And of course, she's going to respond to them very differently.
Yeah. That's fun. That's fun. So does Patrick like tell you like, oh, this is their personality or whatever? So you should kind of
Yeah.
like, okay, that's cool. Wow, that sounds
Yeah.
like a lot
Like,
of work.
and like, I feel like it's a lot on the director to really understand each character and how they would respond to each other in different situations. Like the scenes with like Marianne and like Raph are like so funny because of their dynamic. He's like
Yeah.
trying so hard to be my friend, and then she's like, "You're too much. You're too close. Get away."
Run. Wow, that's really fun. That sounds actually really, really cool. I never played the game, but my roommate at the time was obsessed with the game and was playing it. And then I also wasn't familiar with Fire Emblem. I knew the characters because of Super Smash Bros. Marth and Ike.
Yeah.
But I was like, wait,
Violet.
they're great. And I was like, yo, there's a game, and so I checked it out, and I never really got into it. But Fire Emblem was the one that I was like, okay, there's like a lot of interactions. It was a lot of voice lines, a lot, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like it was like I just do my work, and I just would like my friend would play or my roommate would play, and I would just like listen, and I'm like, and I would look over and I'm like, oh, who's talking? Why are they like this? Why don't they like each other? But it's cool. I think but did that game have like the most lines for you to work with, like the most, or was it like not as
I don't even know. I mean, we did record it over a very long amount of time.
oh, okay.
Um, it's really hard for me to know because, like, in recording sessions, we'll say each line like at least 2 or 3 times and then move
Yeah.
on. And
Okay.
so, like, it's impossible to kind of keep track how many lines there is, like how many hours I've spent on like a game.
Yeah.
And I guess it just kind of depends, but I did record quite a lot for it, but because there's so many characters, it was over a span of like several months.
Okay. That's crazy. Wow. Okay. Wow. Several months. Oh, I would like lose my
Yeah,
marbles. I don't know.
it's kind of similar to like Persona 5. Like those are really long games too, and like
More narrative
those
based,
were really
right?
spread out too. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's also another game that
JRPGs tend to be long.
yeah, I really want to get into it, but I feel like that's something that I want to play like on my own, like not really stream it, because like, people want to see gameplay, or unless like your chat is like really involved in the story. But from my experience, they're like, okay, goodbye. Like they go away. But yeah. But I really wanted to get into it because like I heard the story is really good. And a lot of people cosplay Persona 5 characters, which I know you also cosplay too of your characters. And I saw and I'm like, wow, like the cosplay looks really good. Do you cosplay for fun, or like was it because like for a thing, or
It's all the cosplay that I've done has been just for fun.
okay.
I've always been interested in it, and I think it's a really cool way to like really embody the character.
Get into them? Like,
Yeah,
I am this character.
and it's kind of
Yeah.
like fun to kind of like craft or like put something together. Like a lot of like I have bought, like it's like things that I've bought, and then also sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe I can't find that particular look, so then I have to like create it somehow.
Yeah.
Like for Haru, for my
Persona
Persona
5,
cosplay,
yeah.
I found like a blouse that has those like little bell shaped kind of sleeves,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like the right color because it was just like a white one. So I
You dyed
I
it?
had to like dyed it myself,
Oh,
and I was
okay.
really scared because I was like, I only have the one. If I
Oh.
mess up,
It's gone. It's over.
if it's
Yeah.
like hot pink, then I'll be sad.
Okay.
I mean, I did cut up another shirt that I had
Just in case.
that was like a similar material, so I was like doing little swatches to make sure that it was
That's so
the
smart.
right dilution.
Yeah. Wait. Wow. Actually, now that's it. I'm gonna take that experience that you shared, and I'll try it because like I feel like I would be nervous too if you bought something and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't like this color, but you don't want to spend another like maybe 50-60 bucks on the same thing if you mess up, you know?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's cool. So do you make all of your cosplays, or do you ever like
No,
buy one?
I wish I bought some, and
Okay.
like, sometimes it's just like pieces, like it's buy bits and pieces and put them together, or
Hmm.
like you kind of create them. And I don't know, I find it to be fun, like when you make them on your own, even if it,
Looks a
kind of
little like
falls
not.
apart.
Yeah.
Like I've definitely had cosplay where I'm like, okay, I clearly don't know how to make pants because it
Yeah.
is kind of like tight. So then I can walk in and like rip. I'm like,
You're like, okay, I'm gonna just gonna
oops.
buy some. It's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Wow. Yeah, cosplaying it can be really hard. I know a lot of cosplayer
Yeah.
friends that like make things from scratch, and I'm
That's
just like,
amazing.
it's really cool because like I would like watch like their videos or whatever, and I'm like, I feel like in theory I should understand. Like I watched their video, I get it, but then when you try it yourself, you're like, it ain't working, and it gets really frustrating. But it can be a really
Mhm.
fun hobby, and some people can like buy their cosplay or just make them, and whatever you do, it's like fun. And I think as of late it's becoming very, very popular, and like everyone's just doing cosplay these days, so I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I wish I had more time to do it, but I also don't really know how to sew. I'm kind of self-taught. So then at times I get so frustrated because I'm like, I don't understand why this is tangling. I don't
Yeah,
know why this isn't working. It was just working a second ago. And
yeah.
but yeah. And then at that point, like, or when you're at a con, you're wearing it, it's like, okay, this is ripped. And then you go to like cosplay repair and be like, okay, can I get a bunch of safety pins? Just safety pin the crap
Just
out
do
of
it, just do
this,
it, it's fine.
or just like fabric glue everything.
Yeah, wait, is there like actual stations that will help you with that?
At a lot of conventions, there's
Really?
like cosplay repair. Yeah,
I
I
never
think
knew
that's
that.
really helpful because things happen.
I never knew. Well, I just thought like I always thought like when you go to cons and you're cosplaying, you have like that one friend or one person that will help you, like they'll carry your luggage, like
Well, I
whatever.
think that's always helpful too.
Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
just because especially it depends on like what you're cosplaying, but it's always nice to have somebody there to kind of
Guide you and help
yeah,
you.
to be like, okay, they've got to go now. Or if it's something that blocks your vision, or if you have
Yeah.
like something giant like wings or something, then you have somebody to kind of like create a barrier so your
That's always
cosplay
so
doesn't get
fun. Yeah.
ruined.
That's crazy. Yeah, I've seen like really big cosplays, and I'm always like, especially if you're at a con with no AC, it's
Oh,
just
oh,
terrible.
oh,
I'm like,
oh,
oh, like,
summer
okay.
conventions.
Yeah, I'm having it in the winter is honestly really, really cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
Actually, speaking of cons, what are you gonna be? Well, what cons are you gonna be going to next? I suppose, if you don't mind me
Um,
asking.
yeah. The one I have one that I'm still in the process of confirming. I'm not sure where that's at yet, but for sure I'm going to be at AVOX this year. That's going to be, I think it's like the July 4th weekend. It might be the
Avox
yeah. It might be the same weekend as Anime Expo.
in LA.
This is going to be at I think it's at the Pasadena Convention Center.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. Okay. Wow. There's like so many cons. So maybe I'll
Yeah.
tune in and be like, hey, again. That's so cool. Wow. Yeah. There's like a lot of cons. Like I never really. So I don't usually go to cons. I kind of started
Mhm. Mhm.
because I have to, but I mean I've been enjoying it a lot actually, and
Yeah, it's
I
a
met with some
totally
really
different
cool people.
experience.
Yeah, and I got like a couple. So in December I went to Las Vegas for a thing, and I got to go to Player One art game bar arcade, which is really cool.
Ooh,
And I got to
okay.
meet so basically it's a fun bar that has like a bunch of retro games and some modern games,
Mhm.
and all the bartenders, they dress up, which actually you would really like. They all cosplay.
Mm,
So
I
and
would
you
love
can
that.
cosplay anything. You just have to get it approved, which usually it does get approved. And I met this one girl, which I recognized her from TikTok because she
Mhm.
would make drinks based off of like animes or shows or games.
Oh, cool.
And the one that was trending was her shimmer drink for Arcane, and she cosplayed Jinx. So then like I come in with like all my cosplayer friends, and I'm like, you're from TikTok, and then she's like, oh, and she's like, yeah, and I was like, you made the shimmer drink. And she's like, yeah, and so I was talking to her and stuff. And she's like, yeah, I go to a lot of cons and stuff, and so she was saying like, yeah, I'm gonna there's this con in Las Vegas, I think this month, actually the end of this month. It's called Level Up Con, and I think
Mm,
that one's
mhm,
more video game related.
mhm.
So I think I might tune into that. But I just thought it was really cool that like once you know one cosplayer, like you meet other people,
Kind
and
of
it's like,
opens you up. Yeah.
it's like, and I'm pretty sure it's the same for voice acting too, you know.
Mhm.
And I think that's really cool, which is why I'm like trying to go. I mean, of course, like we're all staying safe with like wearing our mask and all that stuff, but I think I'm also like, people are going to cons because they miss that, they miss the interaction, and they miss
Yeah.
just meeting people and be like, wow, I like you now, like we're on the same wavelength, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I did see that you voiced a bunch of background characters in the movie Belle that came out this or last month,
Oh
and I was like, whoa, which I still need to see it. I'm gonna try and get Chris to come with me
Oh
sometime this
yes.
month.
Oh, you
Yeah,
definitely should watch it in the movie theater just because the artwork is just so detailed.
the
There's so much
trailer.
going
Yeah,
on all the time. It's gorgeous to see it on the big screen. And like
yeah.
being in like with the surround sound for all the songs are gorgeous.
Oh my
Ah.
god, did you? It's in you watched it dubbed, I'm assuming.
Mhm.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I was like I don't really care like dub or sub. Like people recommend like, oh, you have to see this dub, kind of like Cowboy Bebop. Like you have to see this dub, then I'll do it.
Mhm.
You know. But that's cool. That's awesome. I was like, I was just like, I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, it's so gorgeous. But then I'm like, okay, it looks cool, looks cool. But I'm like, I have a couple of friends of mine saw it and then they're like, you have to go see it for the music. And I was like, okay, I
Mhm.
mean, I'm a big fan of music, like I'll do it.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. But I'm actually now I'm like super excited to go see it because I'm like, oh yay, yo, Xanthe's in there. I gotta catch her on the screen. So that's really cool. And I
Yeah.
saw that you got to shout some Vietnamese in there, which is like really cool. Like, if you don't
It
mind me
was
asking, what did you say?
Oh, well, like the whole process was kind of it kind of like really twisted my brain just because like we
Oh,
were doing passes for like the big background scenes. So there's like hundreds, thousands of like
oh
characters and
wow.
backgrounds. So like, like we'll do passes and then they'll just mix it. So you can't really hear a lot of it
Like,
times.
yeah.
So we did a pass where I did like an English pass, and they were like, okay, because this is international, like
Can
supposed
you
to be
say
like a
it? Yeah.
worldwide like online place. I mean, we want to put other languages in. Do you speak any other languages? And I was like, I speak Vietnamese. And he's like, great. So like he would say like, okay, this is what's happening in this scene. So it's about like a minute, 2 minutes long. So just like go at it, be like like really talk down on them, like boo them for like interrupting this
Yeah.
concert, whatever. So you could say stuff like that. But so I was like really like listening for some of those scenes, but sometimes you can't really hear. But I did hear myself in one of the scenes where like there's a bunch of them kind of like closer. So I think because they were closer, you can pick out different
Oh
words.
yeah, I
And
see.
so in one of them, I heard myself say "Gadi," like like sing. So
That's
I
so
was like,
cute.
"Oh, that's me." So
Oh wow, that's awesome. Wow. That's like, wow, I don't know. That sounds really fun. Like especially if you get to like voice something in another language instead of just English. That's always really fun.
yeah,
Wow, that's cool. Awesome. I have to find that. When I go see the movie, I have to find that. So I'm gonna wrap with one last question, and then
all right.
before we wrap up the interview. But do you have any advice for someone who wants to get into voice acting?
Um, well, like I mentioned before, practice as much as like practice is like boring and such, but if you have like you can create like a little group for yourself, it becomes a lot more fun, especially if you're just like playing around. I'm sure like I've people that I've met through classes, and then we were just like, oh, I feel like we really vibe with each other. Like, why don't we just meet up and like practice things that we learned in class? And
Wow,
then like it
nice.
kind of like deviates to like, okay, bring whatever you want to work on. If you want to work on like an accented piece, if you want to work in commercial, just bring whatever. And so we'd get together, and it's a nice way to like also get like free practice as opposed to like taking classes.
Yeah, yeah.
um, and I also recommend to take classes. I still take classes all the time as well, especially like if there's something that I feel like I want to work on, or if there's like a director that I would like to work with and I'd like to see what their like style is.
Yeah.
Then I'll like sign up for those. Or
Okay.
yeah, so it's always good to just kind of um, keep up the practice, work on your crafting, like try to
Okay.
improve on yourself.
Yeah. Do you
And also just like
oh, oh sorry.
save up. It's
Oh, same.
expensive.
Oh, yeah. I was actually gonna ask, like, are these classes like you just find them online or is it like at a
Yeah.
university?
These are a lot of these have transitioned to online,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
is great, especially if you're
Stay
not
home.
local.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're not able to go anywhere, so you don't have to like travel to like these specific cities where these classes are held. So yeah, there's a ton of like resources. I mean, I'm sure you can like type in and like
Find
if
it.
you
Yeah.
see, yeah, there's lots of people that are always like, oh, I just took these amazing classes, or you can always ask for recommendations.
So what you're saying
Um,
is just go on Twitter, be like, what are some best voice acting classes? Because apparently people respond on Twitter. Like it's crazy. I don't know.
yeah, if you
Twitter's
just like
great.
hashtag it, somebody's gonna respond.
That's
Or you can
cool.
ask, if there's if there's like a voice actor that you really admire, you can ask them like, oh, I want to be like you, like what
Be
classes,
you.
what training do
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want to do you recommend that I take as well,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like a variety of classes always helps because sometimes
Just not
you'll
get the
really click
role.
with its style,
Yeah.
or like the teacher, like, oh, I like
Mhm.
their approach, I'm going to keep this in my toolbox. Or like, oh, I don't know if that's going to work for me, so but I at least I kind of see how you're approaching it. So it's
Okay.
always good to see different viewpoints.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine just only voicing one thing. Like all my guy friends, they voice what's his name? When he says like, oh yes, the poison for Cusco, like that guy Kronk, his name. Do you know
Oh.
that? Yeah, like all the guys like they can do that voice, which is awesome. But that's the only thing they can do. You know what I mean? Or just, I mean, I don't, whatever makes them happy, right? But yeah, that's cool. Do they and actually kind of curious. If you like, let's say they practice, do you post it somewhere like a SoundCloud so you have like a reel, or do you just like it doesn't matter, just have it like somewhere?
Well, once you have enough practice and like what your strengths are,
Hmm.
then you can work with like a demo producer to create a demo. Or like if you like have a lot of work, then you can compile some of like your work just so that to show a range of things that you can do, and have it like up on a website or like YouTube or somewhere where other people can find it. Just so you need to be able to put yourself out there so people know what you do. Because if you just reach out and you don't have any of that out there, then they're like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't know how to cast you. I don't know what auditions to send you because I don't know what your vocal print is.
So post on TikTok. Actually,
TikTok is
yeah.
actually a really good space for that as well. If you don't have like a professional demo made, you can just go on and be like, hey, like here are some like voices that I can do, and then like just go into them. And like there are a lot of casting directors actually on there
Yeah.
um that like listen to those because they're really short and like they're entertaining. And like if you speak another language, like definitely put that in because there's like a huge push now for
Oh
diversity and
yeah.
authenticity.
Yeah.
So like really put yourself out there if you speak another language.
Yeah. That's really cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's like really great advice. I'll definitely like I'm interested too. So I'm like, okay, I'll try that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's so cool. Well, thank you so much, Xanthe, for tuning in with me to have this interview with Geek. Really means a lot. And I'm pretty sure people who are tuning in to watch will also really appreciate. Um, is there when can we I guess before we sign off, where can we see you next? When can we see you next time? I guess.
I guess if
Meaning
you
like
want to hear more announcements
yes,
for
or
things
like a
you know,
show or a movie or anime.
yeah.
That,
So you can follow me on Twitter or Facebook or on Instagram at it's Xanthor. And I usually try to post all my new roles on there. I'm sometimes pretty bad at like keeping up
yeah.
with all of the different platforms. But I try to like be pretty uniform across the board. I guess recently, The Detective is Already Dead is like completely up on Crunchyroll if you want to catch that. I still have the Heike story that's still ongoing. That's also on Funimation. Um, yeah, got some other things in the works. And
So tune into your
oh,
social media.
yeah. And also just announced is Phantom Breaker Omnia. I'm going to be a character in the fighting games that's coming out next month. So
Oh my god, I love
yeah,
fighting games.
looking
I'll
looking
check
forward
that
to
out
that.
for sure.
Yee!
Cool. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for tuning in. I hope you had a good time. I'm just
Yeah, this
vibing
was
like
fun.
talking. So
Yeah, it's been a while since we got to chat and catch up. So
I
this is a
know.
lot of
Yeah.
fun.
I was like, oh, a moment finally. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.